Chapter 6. Actually, there's nothing left between me and Long, and I no longer have feelings for him. But since he was my ex-boyfriend, hearing him call me sister still made me feel awkward, so I just forced a smile. Seeing this, Noyet looked a little resentful and said, "Brother, why are you suddenly so strict today? There must be a hierarchy in the household. You must know your place. Even you, I don't want to have to bring this up again." Noyet's lips twitched as if she wanted to argue, but in the end she couldn't say anything, only reluctantly replying, "I understand." "So what if you understand?" Noyet glanced at me. Her look was clearly unwilling, but under Veen's pressure, she finally spoke, her voice much softer. "Hello, sister." I forced a smile and nodded, and casually wished, "Happy New Year to you both." Then Veen and I got into the car to go home. When we arrived, I was the one driving because I thought his hand hadn't fully recovered yet. But on the way back, he didn't say anything, just switched places and sat in the driver's seat himself. The car rolled along, the streetlight sliding across the windshield, leaving cold streaks of light. Throughout the journey, neither of us spoke a word. The car was so quiet I could hear my own breathing. It wasn't until the car turned onto a different road, the opposite direction from home, that I finally spoke. "Where are you going?" Veen still looked straight ahead, his voice low and even. "Home. That's the opposite direction. To your house." I was stunned for a few seconds before I processed what he had just said. Because since we got married, he had only come to my house once, on the day after our wedding. He didn't even come home for the first Lunar New Year after we got married. Actually, I don't blame him, because I know that with a marriage forced upon him by the bride's family like this, it's understandable that he didn't want to come. I hesitated for a while before asking, "Why did you suddenly decide to come to my house today?" "It's been a year since I've been to your house, and since it's the Lunar New Year, I thought I'd come." I didn't say anything more, because whatever his reason, his willingness to come to my house was incredibly precious to my parents. The car drove a little further, then slowed down and stopped in front of a 3-story house right on the main road. In this area, my house was considered grand and spacious. But compared to Veen's house, it was nothing, like a drop in the ocean. As soon as I got out of the car, I saw Veen open the trunk and take out a large gift basket, elegantly packaged. I was a little surprised and turned to look at him. "You prepared another gift?" "Yes." "Surely you wouldn't come empty-handed, would you? Your visit is enough to make my parents happy, why bother with gifts?" Veen glanced at me, a faint smile playing on his lips. "I thought your family would appreciate a bigger gift. Gifts are never as good as money." His expression suggested he already knew my answer and didn't bother to pay attention, picking up the gift basket and walking ahead. When we reached the door, we saw my parents and my aunt and uncle sitting in the living room talking. My parents' eyes lit up at the sight of their esteemed son-in-law, and they quickly stood up and walked towards us. "Veen and Tuesday in, you're here. Come in." Veen handed the gift basket to my parents, saying softly, "Happy New Year. We've come to wish you both good health and all the best." "Thank you, parents. Your visit is enough, there's no need for gifts." My aunt then spoke up. "Oh, is this Tuesday and's husband? Let me introduce myself, I'm Aunt Tuet, and this is Uncle Ton, your mother-in-law's younger brother. We were in Australia when you two got married, but we were busy and couldn't attend." Veen nodded politely in response. "Yes, hello Uncle and Aunt." Uncle Ton smiled and said, "It feels like just yesterday Tuesday and was still a little girl, and now she's married. Time flies so fast, we're getting older and older." I smiled and replied, "You two are still so young. Are you just visiting or staying permanently?" Aunt Tuet immediately said, "We're planning to stay permanently. But we haven't decided what to do yet." "Oh, and your husband is the CEO of Hua Heng Group, right?" Hua Heng Group has many subsidiaries, if you see any suitable positions, we could consider one for you. Actually, I really dislike these kinds of requests from family members. For example, if it were something related to me, I'd be happy to help, but this involves Veen. And our marriage is just a contractual one, so in reality, we have no right to interfere in each other's affairs. While I was still trying to figure out how to respond to my aunt, my husband spoke up. Yes, you too can submit your applications. My family's corporation has many different sectors. Surely we can find a suitable job for you. That would be wonderful. It's great to have a rich son-in-law. Thank you in advance, dear. You're welcome. You've been married for a year now. Have you had any good news yet? I forced a smile and replied. We're still planning, Auntie. Oh my, girl. There's no need to plan. You're young, just have a baby. Your husband's family is so rich, there's no need to worry about the hardship. If we had been financially stable back then, we might have had 10 children. At this point, Auntie Tuette seemed to remember something and continued. Oh, but back then, we thought you two were getting married because you were pregnant. It seemed like you got married too quickly. Turns out that wasn't the case. Recalling the past, my father was naturally displeased and slammed his cup down on the table. My uncle, being perceptive, quickly noticed my father's expression and attitude, so he nudged my aunt, signaling her to stop talking nonsense. Then my uncle and aunt excused themselves to leave, remembering they still had a few families to visit for the new year. After they left, my parents told my husband and me. It's not often our family gets together like this. Mom's cooking is ready, please stay and have dinner with us. At first, I thought Veen would refuse, but unexpectedly, he agreed. So that meal was the first time we had eaten together at my house since our marriage. Throughout the meal, because everyone in my family knew the reason for this marriage, the atmosphere at the table was very awkward. Especially my father, who was directly at fault, even though he smiled and talked, his face clearly showed embarrassment and caution. Only Veen was relaxed and calm, at times his eyes seemed to be enjoying the awkwardness of my family. After dinner, Veen sat drinking tea with my father. My mother said it had been a long time since the two of us had had time to talk, so she called me up to her room to talk. As soon as I entered the room, she asked. Tuesdayan, you've been married for a year now, has your family been causing you any trouble? I was momentarily taken aback, not knowing why she was suddenly asking that. But seeing the worry in her eyes, I still smiled and replied softly. No, Mom, my grandfather is very kind, and my in-laws are also very kind. Besides, we live in our own house, so there are few conflicts. My mother nodded, but still seemed uneasy. She was silent for a moment, then asked again, in a lower voice. Kue wai kien fan hoi. Su dung kak mui ten de zem ban dike de du. And what about your husband? Is he treating you well? Very well. Hearing me say that, my mother breathed a sigh of relief, as if a heavy burden had been lifted from her heart. She nodded repeatedly. That's good then. As long as Veen treats you well, I'm relieved. Being able to help you find a good place to live, our guilt will lessen somewhat. Hearing this, my heart sank slightly. When my father used me to force Veen to marry me, I was very angry with him. So angry that I didn't want to talk to him or understand him. But thinking back, I considered it a way of repaying him for raising me, and over time, my feelings gradually calmed down. I took my mother's hand, knowing that Veen and I would eventually divorce, but to reassure her, I softly replied. You don't need to feel guilty anymore. Don't worry, my current life is very good. Veen may seem like that, but he loves me very much. Don't worry, Mom. So, when are you two planning to wait? As soon as the question was asked, my heart suddenly ached as if pricked by a needle, very slightly, but it hurt right where it hurt. My throat tightened slightly, but I tried to appear calm as I replied. We've only been married for a year, Mom. Young people these days aren't like they used to be. Some couples get married for 3 or 4 years, enjoying life as a couple, doing what they like, before thinking about having children. But Tuesday in, you can't do that. I see everyone in your husband's family is eager for grandchildren, especially the old man. Besides, your husband is not only handsome, mature, and dignified, but he also has money and status. Any girl out there would want to rush to him just by looking at him. At this point, she paused for a few seconds, gripped my hand tighter, and continued. When couples don't have children, it's easy for them to drift apart. When you're angry, you turn your back. When you're sad, you leave. Everyone can arrange their own lives. But when you have children, it's different. Between two people, there's a tiny life, another reason to think before leaving. At that point, you can't bear to let go, and you have to hesitate a little before leaving. My child, listen to me, children are not just blood relatives, but a very deep and strong bond. Marriage can last a long time, but it can also be short-lived. One day, love fades, people become tired and disillusioned, but as long as there's a child in between, it will bring parents closer together, keeping a family from easily falling apart. Hearing my mother's words, a bittersweet feeling welled up in my heart. It's not that I didn't know these things, but sadly, my marriage to Veen was so far removed from them. I took a deep breath, and could only lie. Yes, I know. But Mom, can we wait a little longer and think about having a baby later? And you should prepare yourself, because if I have several babies at once, you won't have the strength to hold them all. Oh, you silly girl, even if you have 10, I can still hold them. And listen, Aunt Fong from next door gave me a remedy for having a son a few days ago. You too can try it. If you have a son first to inherit the family business, then you don't have to worry about whether the next one is a boy or a girl. Mom, children are a gift from God. To me, any child is precious. I know that, but... My mother stopped speaking at that point when a knock sounded at the door. The door opened, and my father's voice came from outside. Have you two finished talking? Let's talk again another time, Veen has been waiting for a while now. Hearing that, I looked down at the watch on my wrist. The hour hand had already pointed past 10 o'clock at night. Then I went downstairs with Veen, said goodbye to my parents, and we left. It was almost 11 p.m. when we got home. Because I hadn't eaten much the night before, my stomach was rumbling. But thinking it was late and I was too lazy to do anything, I planned to just take a quick shower and go to bed to ease my hunger. Unexpectedly, Veen came to open the refrigerator door, glanced inside, and asked me, "Do you want some chicken noodle soup? I'll cook some." Of course, I couldn't refuse because I was hungry, so I agreed. "Yes, make me a bowl. While I cook, go take a shower and change your clothes first." I happily agreed and hurried upstairs. It was late, so I only took a quick shower, not daring to linger. When I came downstairs, the aroma of hot chicken noodle soup filled the kitchen. On the table were 2 steaming bowls of noodle soup. Just looking at them made my stomach rumble even more. I pulled up a chair and sat down opposite him. It was just ordinary chicken noodle soup, yet in his hands it smelled incredibly delicious. I slurped it up, unable to resist praising him. "How did you cook it? It's so good." "You're hungry, so it's understandable that you find it delicious." Hearing that, I looked up at him, a mischievous smile playing on my lips, wanting to tease him a little. "Ah, so you knew I was hungry, that's why you cooked chicken noodle soup for me, right?" At that moment, I saw him momentarily speechless, his deep, dark pupils slightly narrowing. Before I could discern his thoughts, he quickly regained his cold demeanor and replied, "Do you think you're that important to me? How interesting, you cooked chicken noodle soup just when I was hungry. Could it be that after living together for so long, we have a telepathic connection? Stop fantasizing. I was hungry too. Eat quickly and then go to sleep." Teasing this ice-cold person was no fun at all. I didn't say anything more, and continued eating. I finished my bowl in one go, even drinking all the broth. When I looked up, I noticed the other person's bowl was almost untouched, seemingly only touched a few times as a formality. Is this what you call being hungry? But never mind, I didn't bother to care anymore. I cleared my own bowl and went to bed. Time flew by, and the Lunar New Year holidays were over in a flash. On the sixth day, Aunt Shuyan came from the countryside, and Veen and I returned to our busy daily lives. Actually, as a doctor, I don't wish for busy workdays because I'm lazy. The quieter the hospital was, the fewer accidents there were outside. But that morning, right after the Lunar New Year, death seemed to be taking a stroll. Patients were admitted continuously, some seriously, some lightly, keeping all the doctors and nurses in the department busy performing emergency surgeries. From morning until late evening, I and the head of the department performed 5 surgeries. Some cases involved serious injuries, even perforated internal organs. When I came out of the operating room, I was almost completely exhausted, my limbs weak, my head spinning, tired and hungry. Just then, little New ran up from somewhere, thrusting a carton of milk and a loaf of bread into my hand. Eat something to tide you over. Thank you. I'm exhausted. So many accidents at the beginning of the year, huh? Yes, today everyone flocked from the countryside, the roads were crowded, so it was unavoidable. Yes, thankfully, during the Tet holiday shift, there were significantly fewer accidents compared to previous years, sister. The law prohibiting alcohol has such high penalties, so everyone is more cautious. By the way, which day of Tet did you work shift, M? I worked the 3rd day, with Ms. Fwong. It was incredibly annoying. Why? Did she make things difficult for you? She probably knew I was close friends with you, so she criticized me about everything. She said some harsh things too, but I ignored her and didn't bother to argue. Yeah, why bother arguing with her? After a few seconds of silence, she suddenly continued, her voice tinged with indignation. But when she told Ms. Deep that you got the favor of Boss Veen so you wouldn't have to work during Tet this year, and then told us to take a course with you to learn what shortcuts are, it was incredibly irritating. Perhaps because I already knew Ms. Fwong's personality so well, I found her words more amusing than irritating. She herself, basically, couldn't be like me even if she wanted to. Seeing my nonchalance, Nu quietly asked, "Aren't you upset?" Just as Nu finished speaking, I saw Ms. Fwong and Ms. Deep approaching, so I deliberately raised my voice. Why be upset? Just let them talk. Their mouths are on their faces, we can't control them. Besides, people who talk behind others' backs usually do so because they're not as good as others, and they're just jealous. Indeed, a guilty conscience betrays itself. Mrs. Fwong suddenly stopped walking, her face instantly darkening. She spun around to face me, her voice sharp, angry, and irritated, almost like she'd gone mad. Hey, you. Who are you talking to? I've always been someone who doesn't like to pick fights with anyone. I don't mind what people say behind my back. But once someone confronts me directly, I'm not afraid to retort. I replied bluntly. What's wrong with you? We're just talking. Who said anything to you? Or is it that you see dirt in everything? Mrs. Fwong was speechless. Her lips moved several times, clearly wanting to retort but unable to find the right words. Finally, she could only grit her teeth and say, "Remember my face." After saying that, she stormed off. Little Nu watched her until she was completely out of sight, then turned to me and said, "I thought she was some kind of gangster, a doctor. Aren't you afraid she'll hold a grudge against you?" What am I afraid of? It's not like she just started holding a grudge against me now. Huh, you're such a fool, aren't you? Oh, I'm going to check the 4 fluids for the patient and then I'll be back. Kui Wai Kien Fan Hoi. Su Dun Kak Mui Ten De Zem Ban Dike De Du. Okay, go ahead. After Nu left, I sat down, ate a sandwich, and drank a carton of milk to regain my strength before returning to the room to monitor a few post-operative cases, giving the nurses some more instructions, and quickly signing the remaining patient records before leaving. When I finished, I was about to go back to my room to change when suddenly Uncle Man, the head of the department, came and called me into his office. I was a little surprised, and a few thoughts flashed through my mind, wondering if I had made any mistakes during the surgery. When I entered the room, Uncle Man smiled kindly, his voice softer than usual. "Tuesday, are you free tonight?" It's rare for him to ask me that, so I was even more surprised, and asked, "What's the matter, Uncle? You heard the director mention it the other day, right? The Hua Heng Group is preparing to select a hospital to provide free use of their trauma surgery machine." "Yes, sir." "So, has the corporation decided which hospital it is yet?" "No official decision has been made yet. But our hospital has a chance. Tonight, Director Veen has invited the board of directors and representatives from the department to a party at the Imperial Garden restaurant. They'll discuss this further there. Will you come with me and the director? Parties like this are never for a doctor like me. Besides, I'm not interested in these kinds of parties, so I politely declined. I think it'll be fine if you and the leadership attend. After all, I'm just a treating physician. Attending parties like this isn't really appropriate." Hearing this, the head of the department hesitated for a moment before replying. "To be honest, Director Veen also invited you personally. He said that during his hospital stay, your attentive and thorough care helped his wounds heal quickly. This party is also a way to thank you and our hospital." My eyebrows furrowed slightly. I couldn't understand why Veen was doing this. We were husband and wife. There were plenty of other times to express gratitude. Did he really need to be so formal and roundabout? Seeing my hesitation, the head of the department continued. "It's not often that Mr. Veen asks for our help. Consider it a favor to me and the director. Please join us for some fun." Since the head of the department had said that, how could I refuse any further? I reluctantly replied, "Yes, ma'am. I'll go home, change, and then go to the restaurant." "Okay, the party doesn't start until 7 p.m. Just change and then come." "Okay." From the hospital, I went straight home to shower and change. When I got home, Aunt Shuyan was watering the flowers. Seeing me, she said, "Mr. Veen said you and your wife won't be having dinner at home tonight, so I didn't cook." "Did Mr. Veen call home, Auntie?" "No, he just came back to get something and then left." "Your wife came home a few minutes after he left." "Okay, I'll go shower and change and then leave too." "You go ahead and eat first, Auntie." After showering, I changed into a white tweed suit. Because my skin is already fair, I didn't wear much makeup, just a little lipstick to look fresh, and then I took a taxi to the restaurant. Due to traffic, when I arrived, I saw the management and the head of department sitting with my husband, ordering food. When Assistant Tang saw me appear, his eyes showed clear surprise. Fearing he might blurt something out, I quickly greeted the management and Veen. As soon as I finished speaking, Veen closed the menu, gently looked up, and glanced at me. His face still wore that same age-old, unchanging coldness, though his eyes gleamed. I don't know if the director noticed, but he immediately pointed to the empty seat to his right and said warmly, "Tuesday, come sit here." I forced a smile and nodded. "Yes, sir." After saying that, I went and pulled up a chair and sat down next to my husband. A moment later, the waiter brought the food, and the formal dinner began. The management took turns toasting Veen. When I was alone, I also had to raise my glass and clink it with his. "I'd like to toast you, Mr. Veen. Thank you for inviting me to this party today. It's a great honor." Perhaps he rarely saw me being so formal, so when I said these words, Veen cleared his throat slightly, skillfully concealing a smile at the corner of his lips. "It should be me thanking Dr. Tuesday, because during my hospital stay, I received very attentive care from the doctor. Dr. Tuesday, you've worked so hard." "It's nothing, it's our responsibility." Kui Wai Kien Fan Hoi. Su Dung Kak Mui Ten De Zem Ban Dike De Du. After saying that, I raised my glass and took a sip. My alcohol tolerance wasn't as good as Yuan's, but it wasn't impossible either. Later in the meal, I don't know what his intention was, but he calmly picked up a piece of meat and put it in my bowl, saying, "Drinking alcohol without eating anything makes it easy to get drunk." I frowned at Yuan. He wasn't acting like himself at all. But in front of everyone here, I couldn't lose my composure, so I forced a smile and replied, "Thank you, Boss Yuan." After saying that, when I turned around, I met the knowing gazes of the management, especially the director and the head of the department. Then the director quickly and skillfully steered the conversation to the main topic. He praised the medical equipment of the Suhin Group, saying that over the years, those products had greatly assisted the hospital in treatment, giving many patients a chance to live. Finally, he raised his glass, looked directly at Yuan, and his voice became more sincere. "Mr. Yuan, actually, I won't hide anything. I heard that Suhin Group has just launched a new generation of trauma surgery equipment and is planning to select a hospital to use it first. If possible, I would very much like to ask Mr. Yuan to consider our Renhua hospital." As soon as the director finished speaking, the atmosphere at the banquet table suddenly fell silent. I felt the nervousness spreading, not only from the director, from the leadership, but also from myself. I turned to look at Yuan, seeing the corners of his lips curl into a faint, almost imperceptible smile. Then he raised his glass and lightly clinked it against the director's, slowly replying, "Actually, the reason I invited you all here today is to inform you that Suhin Group has decided to choose your Renhua Hospital as the first institution to provide free use of the trauma surgery equipment." Joy was evident on the faces of the leadership. The head of the department sitting opposite me could barely hide his excitement, his hand on the table clenching slightly. The hospital director burst into laughter, his smile so bright it betrayed his emotions, and he quickly raised his glass in response. "On behalf of the hospital, thank you very much, Mr. Veen. Thank you for your favoritism towards Nan Hoa." Thanks followed one another, and the atmosphere at the table immediately became more lively. The clinking of glasses and the sounds of laughter and conversation mingled, like a heavy burden had been lifted from everyone's hearts. A few seconds later, Veen spoke. "You don't need to be so formal. Actually, I chose Nan Hoa." At this point, he suddenly turned to look at me, each word he uttered so close it felt like it was sticking to my ear. "It's because of Dr. Tran Tuesday and..."